I'm Dr. Effie. I'm a clinical psychologist based in Melbourne, Australia, and I've been a psychologist for almost 20 years now. And more recently, I started working more with bodybuilding athletes, really to help them handle the mental demands of competing in particular, and really developing skills with mental toughness, how to figure out why they want to compete, how to make that journey more sustainable and enjoyable, handle stress along the way, any difficult emotions that come along the way. So that's what I'm really passionate about, just to help them really get that champion mindset out of them.
Where did the passion come from for both fitness and for bodybuilding for you?
Yeah, so probably not a path that many start. So I actually started bodybuilding later in life. When I say later in life, I mean age like 40 or something like that. So I'm a few years past that now. And I started that actually after dealing with some adversity in my own life. So, I've been a clinical psychologist. I was, helping lots of people, putting a lot of my time towards others. But in the background, I actually was dealing with my own struggles and stresses. And at that time, about 6 years ago, I left an emotionally abusive marriage. And before that, I was never really a fit person, never really even like dabbled too much in fitness. I didn't really have time. I was also raising three children as well in that marriage. So when that marriage ended, and it took a lot of courage to leave that, I started working a bit more on myself. And once I felt stronger mentally, it was the weirdest thing, but there was sort of a shift in me. And I thought, now I actually want to be stronger physically as well. I feel like I want to not just, feel that mentally, I want to feel that in my body as well. And I also felt like, I'm raising three girls and I just want to be, a role model for them. I want to also show that I can be the man and woman of the house and all of that. So I started going to a gym and absolutely loved it. I loved, getting stronger, even though I didn't know what I was doing. I just had someone show me around initially. Then COVID happened and gyms closed. And that was devastating because it was something that really helped me cope with many stresses. Um, but during COVID, during that time, I dabbled in some online dating and met a wonderful man who's now my partner. And he was, doing bodybuilding for himself. He had a home gym and in his early 20s competed and said to me, you look like you put on muscle quickly. Have you thought about competing? And I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to jump on a stage in a bikini and go out of my comfort zone. I was like so introverted. I thought there's no way I'm going to do that. Um, but what happened was he actually planted a seed in my head that started to sort of sprout and grow. And I kept thinking, maybe I should do that. And then that idea actually became stronger. And I thought, actually, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go completely out of my comfort zone, do something I would never do in a million years. And I think that's actually going to help me, to really push through any discomfort and see how I go. So I looked for a coach. And then when gyms reopened here in Melbourne, we had like the longest lockdown. When they reopened, I met in person with that coach. I wanted someone who can also be a trainer for me because, I wasn't experienced, and absolutely loved it. And this trainer, I'm still with her. She's all about also strength training, like really to build your strength. And so, it was like deadlifting and gradually that became heavier and heavier. And I absolutely loved it. I love the feeling of the strength in my body. And then I started competing. I loved that as well. Loved the journey. It was very difficult, very challenging. But it also taught me so much. And I guess being a psychologist, I'm naturally curious about just the interplay between your body and your mind. And, here I was thinking, I'm going to do bodybuilding because, I was already stronger mentally. I just want to be stronger physically. And what I didn't realize was how pushing yourself to get stronger physically actually helps you become stronger mentally as well. So that was, an amazing discovery. And so now with that experience and that knowledge and having competed a few times now, I really want to apply that to help other competitors. And then, using that wealth of knowledge I've got from working with anxiety and depression and navigating difficult emotions. Yeah, long story.
So, do you find that there's any pushback in the field from what you just said about, getting stronger physically really does have an impact, a positive impact on getting stronger mentally? Are you a personal trainer, online fitness coach, or gym owner on the verge of burnout? Are you wanting to grow your fitness business but can't add more hours to your hectic schedule? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today.
The thing is that there's more and more research that comes out now about how much that actually helps you. There's changes in the brain that occur when you train and when you exercise, and actually particularly strength training, it actually, changes your brain and prevents dementia and things like that. So, and we know that endorphins, kick in when you exercise. So we know things happen, in the brain. But I think, it takes a whole other level of sort of resilience and mental toughness when you want to compete in something like bodybuilding, because you really have to push past your comfort zone. There's diet changes that really challenge you. And, you need to be really clear about why you're doing it, because otherwise it's not going to be sustainable. It's not just, I just want to look good,
Mm-hmm.
to go on stage. Like, it has to be about a lot more than that, but also you do need to have a lot more in your life, than just bodybuilding, because otherwise there'll never be any balance if it's all or nothing.
Going back to what you're saying about this mental and physical connection, do you ever see
Mm.
do you ever see a world to where there are professionals that are linked with either personal trainers or someone in that more physical side of it that's like, hey, I'm recommending you to this other professional in this other field because as much as we
Mm.
can work together and do great things, you're also going to see benefits by doing this other thing. Do you see a world where that becomes a reality?
I really hope so, because one of the reasons I also got into this field was because I realized that there was a gap. There was an absolute gap. I couldn't even find anybody that's doing what I'm doing, here in Australia. So, there's definitely a gap, and unfortunately, you know, I mean, because it's such a niche field as well, if somebody went to, any other psychologist for help with, their mental health while they're pursuing their bodybuilding competing goal, some psychologists may see that as, oh, that's too extreme. Maybe you need to take a step back. Maybe that's just putting too much pressure on your mental health. But, as an athlete myself, I know the value of this sport and what it can do for you, the benefits of it. So I definitely see that there is a role, and I agree with you that, everyone have their role, and your bodybuilding coach, they're there to, provide you with your training program and your nutrition plan and accountability, and absolutely they can support you and, push you, but they can't help with, that the mental and emotional side, in every way, and they shouldn't, you know. Um, so I think that it would be amazing if there was a role, for psychology in there
Mhm.
as well, that just became really mainstream.
Well, I kind of have like two differing, but maybe even to some degree they are thought patterns that do come together at some point. One of my beliefs, or one of my kind of not even really a belief, but something more that I just think on is like, is it to where people need like all like a ton of support staff around them, like some like a mental coach, a physical, a diet, a financial person, spiritual, if that's, what you're all about, business coach. Like, do we need that as a human? Is that something that we just like as a core that we need? And then we just like, we have our own thing. And then another thought pattern I have is, are we supposed to like be good at everything, like, and have like some sort of working knowledge of everything? And then if so, like how does that play out? Or maybe it's like, as we are surrounded by people, by our kind of our tribe, if you will, our support staff, our support system, we can continue to learn from those people, but those people are always going to be kind of our guiding light in that sense. I mean, which way do you kind of view it?
Yeah, look, I think it really depends on your goal and what your starting point is, because we all start from a different starting point. So some people have more resilience than others. They may not need that psychology input. They might not feel like they're struggling, and then there are some things where you do need really direct structure. Like you can't just go and prepare for a bodybuilding comp without that, and just go with the flow. So, I think you start life just going with the flow and doing the best that you can based on many, many factors. How we function in general, right? It depends on our upbringing. It depends on, who we interact with. It depends on our values. There's lots of things. So it is quite a broad question. But in terms of bodybuilding in particular, I think first and foremost, yeah, you need a coach, a bodybuilding coach to direct you on how to achieve that goal. But once you start, then you may see what else you need. Maybe you need a physical therapist or massage therapist. Frequently, if your body is one that gets really sore, if you're starting to notice that there's a lot of self-doubt and body image issues, and this is bringing up a lot of stress and anxiety for you, but you still want to do this, then yes, psychology would come in. Right. So I think, yeah, some of that you judge along the way in terms of of what you need. I think, for me personally, because I actually went through a lot of challenges in my life prior to doing that, it sort of helped me develop already some resilience. And now I was facing a challenge that I was actually choosing. Right. When I was, in an emotionally abusive marriage, I didn't choose that and I would never choose that. But it was also the best thing that ever happened to me, because I learned a lot. It helped me, navigate a lot of issues, help figure out a lot of things, figure out what's important to me. When you're dealing with a challenge that you're choosing, like I choose to compete, I know it's going to be challenging. Some of those life skills that I developed helped me actually push through that. And I knew that it's making me better as a person. So, that gave me that extra push with it as well. But if you've been lucky enough not to deal with too many challenges, you might need some guidance on how to navigate that.
Do you find that people recognize that at given times, or do you think that, and I'm sure it's, it varies, but see that people recognize like, oh, I might need a little help. I might need a little guidance. Do you think that they recognize that more? Do you think that that more comes from their surrounding, friends, family, whatever it may be, and then they hear it and then they might, go somewhere and get some help? Or, I guess really, what do you see with just the people that you work with? Where does that initial idea come from, do you feel like?
Yeah. Look, the people that see me, obviously they've got enough self-awareness to come and seek some help. And I'll get back to that self-awareness because it's actually quite important. But the people that see me, usually someone did recommend to them to see someone. And it might be friends or family that notice you're not yourself, maybe it would be good for you to talk to someone. It might be their coach that says, look, this is beyond what I can help with. I know you want to compete, so to seek that out. And there are some coaches that are now aware of me, and so they sort of recommend me to work with their clients. So that's often how they do come. But some do have enough self-awareness that they realize I'm really struggling, I need some help. It's just that people don't know who to talk to about this, who to see. Because as I said, your regular psychologist that your health practitioner would refer you to here wouldn't necessarily have know about the sport. But what I was wanting to say about self-awareness is that unfortunately we have this kind of mentality of pushing things under the rug, sweeping things under the rug. And, no, I can't think this, I can't feel this, I've got to push through, I've got to really push through. And people have this idea that's what mental toughness is. You just push through all the feelings, you don't feel anything, you just, laser focus like that. But actually that's not helpful. That's not helpful. You're a human being, you're not a robot. You're going to have thoughts and you're going to have feelings. It's actually much better to recognize that you've got a feeling coming along. Notice even where it is in your body. Take the time to just process it, and processing it just means just sitting with it. Just allow yourself to feel it. You won't die from having a feeling, right? If tears come, let them come, let it out. It will have a start and a finish. You can acknowledge it and then say, okay, you know what? I get it. This is what I'm going through. This is a tough time. If you need to do something about it, you do so. Sometimes you just need to let it out, and then you move on. So that's also what I work with.
Is the finish aspect, is that something that a lot of people struggle to? I think maybe there's a lot to say about this, but the
Mm.
fact that like people, okay, man, I always feel this way, or I've been in this funk forever, whatever, maybe it was one event, maybe it was a series of events, maybe whatever, they don't know where it started, but I've just, I've always been not what I want to, what I feel like would be best, or this is just my
Mm.
normal. Um,
Mm.
so does that end? Do you feel like sometimes that end point is the struggle when it comes to? Are you a personal trainer who wants to scale and grow your business online? Have you been coaching online for years, yet don't know how to incorporate online into your current business model? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today. People not wanting to start in some cases, you say like there's an end, there's a beginning and there's an end. Do you think that some people just don't want to have that beginning because they don't know like what that process will be and then what that end will look like, if they can somehow like not control that?
Mm. Mm. Look, I think everything is there to teach you something, and if you're letting those emotions out and you're realizing, gosh, there's a lot more there than I anticipated, and actually now I'm struggling with this, and it reminds me that I'm also struggling with that. That's not a bad thing. That's there to tell you, okay, something needs to be addressed. You can't sweep things under the rug forever. It's going to come out. And the thing is that sometimes, yeah, people actually, have mental health issues that perhaps have been there for a long time, never addressed. And all it takes is to put you in a really extreme situation where you're challenging yourself for that to trigger all of that and for that to come to the surface. Um, None of that's a bad thing. There's help for that, right? So that's again where psychology comes in. You can explore all of that. You can look at where it's coming from. You can learn strategies to manage it better, and all those strategies would be skills for life. Um, and then it's much easier to navigate.
Do you find that there's some people who, because they've been in that feeling of being in it for so long, that becomes like a comfortable place to be, and it's almost like, well, if I like, what will my life look like, or who will I be if I do get help, or if I do, maybe solve some of this, like what will my life then be, who will I then be if I'm not in this certain state? Does that ever, feel like that's a reality for some people?
Yeah, look, some people do identify with you know whether it's issues that they've got or that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, if it's actually affecting your functioning, your day to day, it's making every day a struggle. That's not helpful to you. So it does take a lot of courage to ask for help and to, like I said, have that self-awareness and to recognize that. But I think, what's, there's a lot of, you hear this a lot, social media, and people say, gym is my therapy, right? We hear that a lot, and it's loosely thrown around, and I totally get that, of course, right? You go in and, stress can melt away, the endorphins kick in, you feel amazing. But really, for being realistic, gym is not therapy. Okay, it helps, but it's not therapy. It's not going to solve all your problems. It's not going to help you in your relationship. It's not going, it's not going to solve past traumas. It just helps you perhaps feel like you're managing it better. Those problems still need to be resolved. And I think the thing is that sometimes all it takes is just getting a better understanding of why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. and what you can do about it. And there are things you can do about it and that you can learn. And it's the most empowering thing to know how to navigate your own emotions and not feel like you constantly have to avoid them, distract yourself from them, run away from them. There's, there are ways.
Have you ever worked with, or do you think that there's maybe competitors out there in the sport, or potentially probably in other sports as well, maybe that, they don't want that help because they feel like that darkness is almost has created what they are. Like, it's created my success because, I have these negative experiences that push me to go and work out hard in the gym and push me to go to be successful because, I want to prove everybody wrong, or I want to prove, I want to, whatever that kind of motivation is, that kind of darker motivation. So if they may feel like, well, if I don't have that, then I'm just not going to be as competitive. I'm not going to have that drive. Have you ever worked with anybody, or do you feel like that can be a very powerful driver for maybe even bodybuilders more specifically?
Yeah. Look, I have worked with people like that. And the thing is that absolutely, that's what drives you. I mean, in a way, that's what drove me as well. I went through something tough and I thought, I want to now be strong. And this is, I'm going to push through and I can prove that I can be strong, powerful woman, despite what I've been through and things like that. Absolutely, that can push you. However, you can be an even better athlete when you address anything else that's there, and you may not actually realize that some difficult emotions that you're struggling with, can actually get in the way of you being the champion athlete that you want to be, right? So yes, you can have the reason and what drives you to do it and to push, but like I said, you still have to navigate those feelings. We're not robots. You can't just do all the action, A, B, C, and I'm done, and I did it. It's not that easy. Of course, emotions are going to get in the way as you, work towards the stage.
Mhm. So let's say you're working with somebody, they come to you and, you're starting to kind of make some progress and all these good things. But then, because of those, you kind of mentioned it can start to unravel different things, or things maybe you haven't thought about in a while, or whatever that is.
Mm.
You know, how how do you manage, I guess, like how you almost
Mm.
unwrap somebody?
It's not kind of a one-way street, the answer to that question, because I sort of tailor to the individual and what would work best for them. But generally, if someone is struggling with, let's say, anxiety, okay, we look at how that started in the first place. What brought that on? When was the last time you felt that to an extreme? What did you do when that happened? So we kind of look at all of that and look at what they're doing that's helpful and what they're doing that's not helpful. And then the thing about really any emotion is that there's the bodily stuff that happens. So with anxiety, you get tensed up, you can have palpitations, you can get hot and sweaty, and and then you've also got thoughts that can go through your mind. You can have self-doubt, speaking to yourself harshly and things like that. And so when you talk at both of those things, how are you thinking about different things? What are you actually saying to yourself? And then what are you feeling in your body? So there's different things we do for each. So if it's, when we look at the thoughts, and we look at what are you actually saying to yourself, to look at whether it's realistic. Is it just a speculation? Or is it actually based on facts and truth, and help you be more present? So that's the other really crucial part of it, not to focus so much on the past that you can't control, like to acknowledge, okay, whatever's happened has happened, can't change it or control it. And not to think too many steps ahead about the future either. We can't control that either. But, when you focus so much on past and future, you're taking your attention away from the one part of your life you can control, which is the present. What are you going to do right here, right now? So, we focus a lot on that. And then with the body, I love working on that part, because that's really helping people get in touch with where they're feeling that feeling in their body. And I teach them relaxation techniques, also do hypnosis as well. So we do that to help them kind of relax and release those pent up feelings in their body. And when your body's relaxed, it's much easier to think more clearly and rationally about things. Emotions don't feel as overwhelming. So that's kind of in a nutshell how I work with people.
Do you find that there's the personality type that attracts bodybuilders that also may have maybe like more of a risk, if you will, or of a likelihood to struggle with certain issues because like they gravitate towards that thing because it fulfills a certain thing, but maybe that's more of a cover than it is like a than it is a true, maybe eventually it's a passion, but more at the beginning maybe it's more of a cover than it is anything.
Mm. Yeah, look, I don't know that it's a certain personality type because I've seen, lots of different personality types doing bodybuilding. I would say it's probably more driven by experiences, that you've had. Um, but for generally speaking, it's people that really just want to push themselves further. And not everybody do it because they're covering something up or, have been through some struggles in their life. Some people have been athletes all their life and want to now, take that to another level. And that's important to them. They want to perform at a high level. And that's one way that they do that. So, but I think, like I said, because there's also this term thrown around, gym is therapy. I do think once people start, if you get a bit too obsessive with it and then becomes extreme, then it's not actually helpful, and you can't rely on it because I mean, what if you get an injury? What are you going to do then, right? So you have to have still that balance.
I guess from a broad perspective of psychology, what is kind of the distinction between something that is considered like, okay, this might be problematic, this could be problematic behavior, problematic rationale or whatever, versus something that's just seen as that is what it is. And just looking at it from one example, it kind of sparked my thought was like what you said about someone as an athlete all their life, so they continue to do bodybuilding. So that may be considered like, okay, that's a fair rationale, that's a fair reasoning to want to do that. But then you could dig in deeper and say, well, maybe they're doing that because they haven't developed any other aspect or any other relationships with people because they've always been an athlete, and maybe they would feel lonely, and so they're afraid of loneliness, so they're just doing this other thing to make sure that they're not feeling that loneliness. So like, what I'm saying, like to what degree
Yeah.
do you, or like how do you determine, even just on a personal level, if you want to like figure that out for yourself, like what are my true reasons for any and everything that I do?
Really good question. So, really, the first thing to figure out is what your values are. Now, your values are what actually really matters to you, in your life. And for some people, connection with people is important to them. There's going to be different things that are important to you in different areas of your life. So, you could have family, you could have career, you could have relationships, you could have health, your physical body. And you need to figure out what's actually really important to you in each of those areas. So for self development, self growth could be really important for you. So you might say, okay, it's really important for me to challenge myself as a person. Resilience is really important to me. So I want to do something that's going to help me be more of that person. Okay, what could be something I could do? Well, for some people, it is going to be bodybuilding. If it's something they've started going to a gym, they really enjoy it. They're like, okay, if I challenge myself in this sport that I love, I could be more of that resilient person, right? If for somebody else it's more connection, and they find that helps them connect, better with people, and they meet like-minded people, and they're part of a community, and they feel that by doing that they challenge themselves, but they also get to be more of part of a community, then that's something that they might do. So the way that I see values is that they're kind of like your life compass. They don't give you the journey, but they give you the direction. So if you know that you want to go in the direction of being, a strong-minded, resilient person, then you're going in that direction. You don't know exactly how you're going to get there, but you might dabble in different things in life, try different things to figure out what's going to help me be more of that person. Bodybuilding may be one of those things. So that's like a really important thing that I work with athletes on, because that's what makes that journey sustainable. right? It's not about winning. It can only be one winner anyway. So it can't be about that, right? So, but if you keep in your mind, okay, whatever I'm doing here, it's helping me be more of that person. And I know for myself personally, that's what's helped me. You know, when it's challenging, I keep reminding myself, this is helping me be more of that person that I want to be. So, yeah, that's what I would suggest.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
Kind of along those same lines there, do you think, or have you ever thought about the possibility that fear drives passion? And when I say that, just like as an example, somebody that wants to, has a great passion for helping people. So they're like, I want to be a doctor. And that can be, something that they love doing, but maybe that passion started from, being afraid of illness, or being, having a past event in their life where, somebody that they loved, got sick and they couldn't get help, or, so they're kind of afraid that that might happen to other people that surround them. So, I mean, if not fear, like what is the driver for human decisions or human passions and human direction?
Mm. So I'll leave this to kind of a theory. There's a theory that's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, and there's different needs that we all have as humans, and it starts off from like really basic needs like having food and shelter, being connected to a community and things like that. And at the very top of that pyramid is personal growth. And not everybody reach that level. You might be quite satisfied in your routine, life, and all your basic needs are met, and you've got people around you, and you're happy, and that's good, and that's absolutely fine. But some people feel a bit of an itch, like something is missing. Something is missing. I feel like I'm not quite being myself, or I'm not really reaching my potential. I feel like I need more out of life. It's not enough just to do the everyday things. And that's usually what drives people to do those more extreme sports or goals. They want something more, and I think if anyone's ever experienced that itch, they would know what I'm talking about. But you just sort of feel like, surely this is not what life's all about. Like something's missing, right? And so you may not know what that is initially, but you explore and you look at what interests me or what my values are. What am I being the person I want to be? What else can I do to be more of that person? And often the only way is actually to go out of your comfort zone, to challenge yourself. That's when you make those breakthroughs.
So, being the person that wants to expand and try new things, I mean, it kind of goes back to, I guess, the same question. Like, where do you believe that in the mind, like, what do you think is pushing that sort of, I guess maybe you would call it ambition or drive? Like, where do you, what's the stem? Like, you can look at
Mm,
somebody and say, man, that person is driven. They're successful because they got out of their maybe not even what was comfortable, but what most people would consider like a comfort zone, and they did these
mm,
things. But what was driving that? What was, you know, if someone had to dissect it all the way down, if they didn't do
mm,
those things, it would lead to a negative experience in life. It would lead to negative emotions if they just stifled that, or if they couldn't do that, or what, for whatever reason, that
mm.
opportunity existed, or that opportunity in their brain existed, or the want to do it, but then they
Yeah.
didn't. Um, what's the seed of that? Where does that come from? Like, what is it? Just like an emotional thing? Is it um, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to even figure it out in my own head.
No,
What do you think?
I hear what you're saying. I just don't think that there's a one size fits all. But I do agree with you that I think it is, most of the time it is because you've been through a challenge or a struggle or a trauma. Absolutely. I think when you come out the other side of that, it really changes you, and you start thinking. You learn a lot about yourself, and you want to be better. you want to improve something, so, to take a more extreme example, when I was in the situation I was in before the emotional abuse, I was very weak emotionally, very weak physically. I couldn't eat from the stress. I wanted now to be the opposite, to be strong in my mind and to be stronger physically. And yeah, that drove me to even think like that. Right. So I do think that, yeah, when you go through, it doesn't have to be trauma, but it can be certain challenges that you go through and you're just like, I don't want to go through that again. What can I do differently? And then you might not know exactly what that is, but you explore. You start living your life more. You start doing different things, and different things lead to different thoughts, and open up your mind a bit more, and can lead to that.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where my brain did kind of go in regards to like, is it that fear of like, I don't want to be in that situation where I feel a certain way, so I'm going to take steps to do whatever it takes to be more powerful or more equipped or um, have more resources or whatever it may be. I just think it's really interesting, how, you just said some people are very satisfied. Some people are more like, I got to constantly be doing something or doing more. Um,
Mm.
is that something that is just based on like, that's just the human kind of like ratio, so that's just the way that some minds are and some minds aren't, and it's necessary to have both?
Yeah, look, I don't know that it's necessary one way or the other. It's just it's really about what makes you happy and fulfilled. If you're fulfilled with how your life is, um, then that's terrific, But I think it is individual. Some people are not fulfilled with things as they are. They want to keep improving and keep progressing. And the truth is that when you make progress in something, anything at all, it makes you happier. It feels good to make progress in something, whether it's any new skill that you've learned, progress in the gym, even by just one extra rep. It makes you feel good to make that progress. You feel like you're getting better as a person. So, I think when people, if people get a taste of that, often they want more of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you mentioned, when COVID shut everything down and
Mm-hmm.
gyms and things like that, you couldn't do those things to the same degree. I mean, I had a very similar experience with, kind of losing myself in a sense during that time of like, man, this is a big part of who I am, like not just who I see myself as, but who other people, how they view me and like what kind of person I am, that I work out and I'm healthy. And, of course, I could have still done certain things, but it was like this thing got taken away and it almost was, um, it shook me, I guess, to the point where I was like, well, if I can't do that, I'm not going to do anything. And then, you
Mm-hmm.
definitely feel, on a emotional and kind of just like a psychological level, the difference in my personality and like the way I felt about myself and saw myself. And that was, definitely a big time of, and going through it, I don't think I noticed it. I think it took, looking back and going, oh, wow, I feel like less valuable, or I felt less, you know,
Mm-hmm.
less confident and less powerful and less um, achieved, and all those different things that, that gave me. And I guess that kind of goes back to what you're saying about like, if those things get taken away from you, where do you go, or how do you respond, or what's your foundation built on, I think, at that point.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, totally. I can relate to to what you said there. And I think also the thing about exercise, though, in particular, is that if you remove that when you're someone that was training, consistently before, what you're also actually removing is essentially a natural antidepressant that you had, right? Because those endorphins on a regular basis, like there's actually research that shows that exercising consistently is almost as effective as antidepressants for like mild to moderate depression, which is incredible, right? So it's a natural antidepressant. If you stop that cold turkey, you're going to feel the effects of that, the detrimental effects of that. So, I mean, I know I was scrambling in COVID to find some way to continue exercising, downloaded apps to do body weight exercises, looked at where I could get little dumbbells, resistant bands, anything just to keep something going.
Yeah, it's interesting how the human body and mind and brain are all connected in a way that we have disconnected them because of like the way that we live now with being more sedentary and different, um, food that we now eat more natural, more normally, not naturally, but more normally. Um, and how we almost like outsource all of those, what used to be one experience. Now we outsource them as I'm going to the gym to be physically active. I'm going to a healthier store to get, health foods. I'm going to do something so I can sleep better, when it used to be, and obviously this was, thousands of years ago, but it used to be you're doing all of those things at the same time. And then it's this one cohesive experience that then led to a more potentially it just seems like it would lead to like a very fulfilling human experience, because now we have all these, like I said, like outsourced locations and even supplementation and drugs and things that we use to bring us back there to that point to where it used to just be that's every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Used to be just part of your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where does the human experience that we're living now, where does that meet a like how long does it take for that to meet our evolution, or our what, the way we live now, does that ever become like optimal, because we've been doing it, maybe we do it for 10,000 years or 100,000 years, and now it's like our body responds well to the way that we live now, and we won't need to in the future do as much exercise or any exercise, because we just haven't been doing it for so long. The body responded and it adapted and it evolved, and we don't have to eat healthy foods because it adapted and it evolved to these other things that now, work better for the body. I just wonder if there's a future there, if it's just like more of the same.
Yeah, look, I personally, I highly doubt the body will just adapt to, poor nutrition and so on. I just don't think we'd survive, to be honest, right? So, survival of the fittest here. So you're not going to be your fittest if you're mistreating your body or your mind, and really comes down to basics. There's a reason why people were healthier in the past, because they were moving a lot and, eating basic whole foods and things like that. And at the end of the day, as you said yourself, your mind and your body, it's all in the same human. It's all connected. And as I discovered myself, your mind helps your body, but your body helps your mind, right? So when you've got a stronger body and you're pushing yourself, that helps your mind get stronger, and vice versa. You also need a level of mental toughness to be able to push your body further. So it all interacts.
And I think that that's one thing we could definitely do better at, is helping people understand that right there. It's just,
Yeah.
it's all connected, that
Yeah.
whatever we do, whatever we consume, whatever, whether that's literally consuming the food or consuming things via social media or through, entertainment or
Yeah.
relationships, like all of that is still consuming and we're still putting it into our body, and all of that's going to affect everything, right? Like a negative social experience is going to have negative effects on your organs, because your cortisol gets spiked for too long, and then that's affecting your heart, and that's affecting your liver and your kidney, and like no one thinks about these things being all connected. But if we did, I think we would have a much more I think we would appreciate the holistic approach for what it is, and not like instead of seeing it as like this alternative medicine or alternative way of thinking about
Yeah.
health.
Yes, absolutely. And even I would take it a step further, as even like the environment that you're in, like the people you interact with, like some people really drain and suck our energy, and some people really uplift us and, bring our energy levels up. So it's looking at all those things in your life, a bit like sometimes I think we need to do kind of a bit of a life audit, to look at what's in my life helping me and uplifting me, and what's really draining and sucking the life out of me, and to look at what to change there.
Yeah, for sure. That's I think that's a great idea, really, is just an audit and constantly updating that and making sure, you're on the right track. Fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise here tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it too.
Absolutely. If you want to, before you head out, if you want to share any socials or websites or anything like that, you can.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram at the Bodybuilding Psychologist _ after the word "the" and bodybuilding. I also have a website, thebodybuildingpsychologist.com, where there's lots of resources, some free resources, hypnosis, a hypnosis track, mindfulness, and a little masterclass to help you commit to compete if that's something you're interested in. So yeah, check it out.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below.